Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second episode of the real estate impact of COVID-19. I'm here today with Lisa Fetrow, with a realtor with M.M. Parrish Coldwell Bankers. So her handle's Realtor Mom. So really excited to hear what she has to say about the current state of our residential market. This is our second video in our series. If you missed last week, head over to our YouTube channel and check it out. We had Nick Banks with Avison and Young talking about commercial real estate. So really trying to give all of you out there a good snapshot of what is going on in real estate today. So thank you, Lisa, for being able to join us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's dive right in. So if you could just give me the kind of the 50,000 foot view, what is the current state of the residential market?
Sure. So honestly, what I could say at this point is just like it is everywhere with everything going on with COVID and 2020, I think it's just weird. I think this year has just been an oddity, but I think the word on the street in residential real estate is low inventory, low inventory, low inventory. So if you're looking at that just overall picture of what's happening in our market, that's the thing that is driving that market, and we're having some sort of oddities due to it. So, the other things that are kind of there and have been for 2020 prior to us hitting this odd, weird situation that we're in, is those low interest rates have really created a nice time for people to buy. Even with COVID, that's been the case. And, I think that our overall thing is going to be discussing how those low inventory levels have affected the residential market. And then, in terms of some other things to think about is that our buyer pool is really looking for move-in ready homes, things that are either updated or newer. So
yeah, and the interest rate thing is kind of an interesting observation. So I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and they're looking at buying a higher end home, but the interest rate is under 3%. And we both were kind of reminiscing on our very first home that we got, and we got a 5.5% interest rate, and we're super excited because it was way lower than our parents ever got on a mortgage, back when they bought their first home. So that tends to drive prices up, as you know, because you can afford more home on the same payment with a lower rate. So
yeah, and borrowers are really willing to spend a little more to get what they want because they're not paying as much for that on that backside of that mortgage.
Right. That makes total sense. One of the things I really enjoy reading every month or so when it comes out from M.M. Parrish is the snapshot of inventory and absorption at various levels. And so I was kind of wondering if you could run us through kind of at different price points. I know that there may be slightly different, supply and absorption and that sort of thing. So like the lower end 200,000 under, kind of that starter home, what does that look like?
Sure. So I think one of the key things for people to understand is what am I even talking about with absorption rate? So my background's in economics. That's what I went to school for. So this is kind of where I geek out on this stuff. But when you have 5.5 months of inventory, you're at what we consider an even market. Once you hit under that 5.5 months, it starts to become more of that seller's market where there's less inventory. And then when you get above that 5.5 months, it's more of a buyer's market where there's more inventory and more to choose from. So obviously so just so you know, our mid-range price in Alachua County is somewhere between like the 250 to 280 range, and that's kind of that our average price point. When you look under $200,000 in our market, we have less than 1 month of inventory. So when I just told you 5.5 months is an even market, when you realize we have less than 1 month, you know that it is so tight. And so any buyers that are out there looking for a home under $200,000 are pretty much experiencing those multiple offer situations, being beat out by a cash offer if they're getting financing. Those sorts of things are really happening and still are even during this COVID situation. I've been in multiple competitive buyer situations in that price point. So once you get over that 200 to 250 marker, we're looking at still about a month of inventory. So a little bit more, but not much, not overly helpful. And then we get to that 250 to 300, which is, really our average price point. We're still really low with 1.5 months of inventory.
Right.
So yeah. So and honestly, this continues on. We see these tiny little incremental increases where between like the 300 and 400 marker, it's about 2.3 months. And then 400 to 500, we're seeing about 2.8 months of inventory. And about 500 to 600,000, we're seeing a 4 months of inventory. So all the way up to $600,000, our inventory levels are low. And we don't see it climb over that 5.5 months until we cross that 600 price point.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
listings.
I know.
We need
So
them.
that's it's the great time to sell on the surface, which of course then begs the question of, okay, if I do sell, where am I going to live? Because you also got to buy into that market or choose some other rental or something else. So and I guess that also kind of shows the stories where you hear, hey, we put our house up for sale last weekend and had 5 offers by the end of the weekend. And that's why, is because the supply is so short that pool of buyers that's coming in, there's only a couple houses to look at.
Right. And a lot of people will think, oh, that's going to drive the prices way up, or it has, or I'm underpricing my home. But really, honestly, we're staying very even in the price points compared year over year. So the prices are going up on a natural, how much they should.
Right.
But we're not seeing anything crazy happening with that. But the truth of the matter is that the buyers are still out there and looking for a home. And when you put that one on there that is priced correctly and has the things that buyers are looking for, they go quickly.
Yeah. Well, to talk about buyers for a minute, with the COVID crisis, has the buying process changed any?
Yeah. So I think that one of the things that we've seen through COVID is that the buyer pool that is out there and looking at homes is very serious. So there's not a lot of people who are out just kind of thinking, well, it'd be nice to have a new house, or, most of the buyers that are in the market, especially through these last few months, are buyers that are serious, needing a place to live, or looking for that upgrade, or whatever it is that's driving them to purchase. They're serious buyers with qualification letters and all of those things. So
I've seen where like a lot of realtors, they won't even really talk to somebody unless they do have a qualification letter. Is that something you're seeing as well, or?
I think that's just kind of real estate 101. If you're going to work with a buyer, you want to make sure they can buy what they're looking at, So the number one thing you say, the first conversation you have with a buyer is, have you talked to a lender yet? Because without that, we don't even know what price point you're looking in, and you can do all the calculators online and all the things that you think about. But until you actually talk to a lender and get that pre-qualification letter, you just don't know what you're working with. So most realtors are going to ask you, good market, bad market, do you have your pre-qual? So we know what we're doing, so we know where we're going. What's the max price? Do we have to hit that max price? No. But do we at least know where it is? Yes, that's helpful.
Right.
So I do think that most of the buyers that are out there right now, yes, they're working with, they've got a pre-qualification letter going, and sellers who are having them see their homes don't want anybody who's, maybe not totally serious,
Right.
coming in and, and seeing the home. So yeah, a lot of sellers are asking to see those pre-quals beforehand too.
Well, and that kind of underscores, even in that low inventory and multiple offer situation, you have to disclose how you're going to buy it, right? So somebody who already has everything lined up may have a more attractive offer, even if the price is even slightly less or a little different, given that they're good for it, right?
Yep. Terms, the type of lending you're doing, even sometimes that personal letter will be the little thing that took you over the line with a seller that's in a multiple offer situation.
Yeah. So talking about financing, have there been any challenges? So, and I read a little bit that maybe the jumbo loans, there were some banks that just weren't willing to do it, or kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on financing and if you're finding any challenges around that.
Yeah, so I mean, we all know that through COVID, we've seen the, increase in unemployment. We've seen on many people's jobs. And so people that were in the loan process that were maybe making an application or had already made an application for a loan, they were being required to have that verification of income done again right at the end so that the lender can make sure that their job is secure. So that's one of the things that usually is kind of taken care of up front, but actually move down the line to the final days of closing a loan, just to reassure. Anybody that was starting a new job, they needed 30 days of pay stubs to make sure that everything's going forward and looking good. The credit reports couldn't be older, or at this point can't be older than 60 days. So if you were shopping and you've been shopping for a long time, the lenders are having to re-pull those to make sure that
Mhm.
nothing has changed. You haven't gone behind on credit cards, et cetera, over this time where maybe your income was hurt. When you're talking jumbo loans, I think the two spots that we saw kind of a halt or a pause was with jumbo loans and new construction loans. So, a lot of the banks didn't want to make that risk of you're getting into a long-term loan process, like the loan for a new construction build. So they kind of halted on those. I am hearing that they're coming back, that they're opening those back up in the next few weeks or have, in the last few weeks. So, and the jumbo loans, I do know that there was some, limitations and requirements that were added in order for somebody to be able to apply.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of consistent with what I've heard with like builders, where they went and basically took all their inventory off the market for a month or so while things cooled off because there was zero activity. Um,
Yeah.
what are new trends that buyers are looking for? You mentioned move-in ready, but I guess what are buyers looking for nowadays?
Well, I think so. A little bit of background here on me. My husband and I we like a house that we call them a diamond in the rough. We like that house that's kind of needs some help,
Yeah.
and so you can and then we come in and we do all the work and then we love
Mhm.
it, right? Well, a lot of buyers right now are not looking for that diamond in the rough. They're looking for the house that somebody's already given them the updated kitchen. They've already updated the bathrooms. They've already, put new flooring throughout the home. So those things are important to a lot of buyers right now. And again, that whole lending thing comes back into play. If it's done prior, then they don't have to do it after. And that means, yes, their monthly payment goes up slightly, but what they're paying for that money is pretty minute.
All right.
Whereas if you come out of pocket in order to do the work, that's cash you have to have on hand to then spend on that home renovation. So we have seen a lot of buyers in the last few years actually just looking more for that new product or for that already done product. Um, but I think what's funny, and I'm working with buyers right now, they realize over the time of being kind of quarantined in their home that it's time to upgrade. They needed, they're like, oh my gosh, we really want a pool, or we realized that we just need one more bedroom, or so those things actually have come out of this whole process, is people realizing that maybe they could put their current home on the market for a little bit more than they thought before, and it will probably sell quickly, and then they can upgrade to maybe the larger lot or the spot they wanted to be closer to, or adding that pool or whatever it is. That's been kind of an interesting point of this whole thing as well.
Yeah, I've had a lot of friends that did their Corona projects,
Yeah.
while they were off. I was very jealous because I'm not handy enough to do anything that would you'd want to see. So,
Yeah, so that's what it is. There's all the people who DIY'd their houses while this was going on, and then there's the people who realized they couldn't DIY it, so they got to buy a new one.
yeah, I think being trapped in your home for a couple of months also lets you know, like, okay, I don't have enough space in here. I know I have three small kids, and so I felt very constrained with a toddler running around and everything else.
Yep.
So how are prices today, I guess, for properties compared to the beginning of this year? Like I know just anecdotally in the past several years, I feel like there's been a pretty strong growth in prices. Um, and there's specific examples around that, but there's been a pretty strong growth in prices. Has that continued, or what has that done in the last 6 months?
Yeah, so we haven't really even seen like a major drop in the pricing. It's, because of the inventory levels, the pricing hasn't really been something that's happened where you're like seeing people kind of fire sale right now.
Right.
You're still able to get the money you needed to out of the home. There's every stat that I'm looking at, like the median sale price for May of 2020 compared to May 2019 is down like 1.7%,
Right.
and we're in the thick of this. So, it's pretty notable that it's a very minimum, and the average sale price, again, just down like 1%. So and that could very well be just due to inventory as well. So there's, I think that, like we said before, the major thing we're seeing is that there's just an inventory problem. And that's what's driving the market to, because if you look at overall dollar volume compared to last year in May, we're down 30%. And that's just due to inventory. If you're looking at
Right.
closed sales,
So
it's the same thing. It's down 30%.
less sales, but no real big difference in the price,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
really different than '08, I guess, because '08, the issue really was just the glut of inventory and the number of foreclosures. And that's really what drove the prices down so dramatically, was because that supply curve shifted, right? Instead of that
Hmm.
1 month absorption, you end up with 12-month absorption. And
Yep.
that serves to drive the price down, just like this has been able to prop the price up even through a economic rift.
Right. And that whole thing in '08 was a literally a real estate driven situation. And what we're looking at now is something that was not driven by this market.
Mm.
And, so the market is actually kind of holding, even though it's down. So it's a weird way to look at it, but
It is. So how have realtors had to innovate during COVID?
so I like to kind of explain COVID as being maybe a fast forward for a lot of realtors who were maybe slower to join the innovation train.
Mhm.
So, a lot of us have been working in this market and trying to use video technology, Matterport tours, which are phenomenal. It's like a dollhouse tour where you can walk through, you can even measure room sizes, etc., just from your computer at home.
Wow.
A lot of us have done, more drone photography and that sort of thing. We've been doing those sorts of things because the truth of the matter is that the internet is where we sell our homes right now. And I think what happened with COVID is that it fast forwarded that need for that type of innovation and technology to be part of your marketing plan. And so those sorts of things where I've had multiple sales in the last few months where the buyer never stepped foot in the home before they put their offer on it, and some of them not even during the inspection, etc. So they were able to have technology like FaceTime tours with their realtor, or video tours that the realtor has done previously, or this Matterport tour that allowed them to see the home and know enough to say, I'm willing to buy this without having to go in because of quarantine situations.
Yeah.
So
Has that changed also how you are interacting with buyers? I remember a long time ago, it was like you'd get in the car and you'd drive around, the house to house to house. How are you interacting with buyers now?
yeah, so buyers are really we're all adjusting quickly, and so when you are going to actually meet somebody for a tour, we're separate cars. Everybody's got their masks. We got gloves. We ask the buyers don't touch anything in the home, that they allow us as the realtors to be the primary source of door opening, light switches, etc. And in a lot of occupied homes, the sellers are leaving everything open and accessible and lights on. And then we're leaving it that way so that we minimize our touch in their home. I think everybody, and especially like the Florida Association of Realtors, has been working so hard to make sure that we were continuing to be able to work through this and be, one of those needed, entities. So we tried to make sure we follow all of the CDC guidelines, and in that we had a COVID disclosure that was released like almost immediately, that has the buyer and the seller sign them, saying if there's been any exposure, or making sure that you haven't had exposure, and then how we're going to handle that, and the showing and following CDC guidelines. So I think that our industry has been on top of it in making sure that we're able to continue to conduct business as we need to, because the reality to home buying is that it doesn't stop. There's people who are still coming here for jobs and needing to have a home, and if they're unable to, if our whole industry had shut down, there's thousands of closings that wouldn't have occurred, and that needed to, so that people had somewhere to be. So
and I've seen that it affects businesses like ours. We have people starting literally next week and relocating to Gainesville for the job, and they gotta have somewhere to live, and that's really important. So, and I guess the last thing then is, so online obviously has changed a lot for all of us. I think 6 months ago I would have never done a video like this. So I'm assuming that this also affects how buyers shop for listings, and maybe the casual browsers, instead of maybe going to an open house, how are they kind of looking?
Yeah, so like I said, as a whole, our industry has had to be aware that everything is transitioning online. So your online presence is huge, and what you give to the buyers to be able to look at, to see, to feel, touch the home without actually being in it is so important. So like 99% of home buyers are shopping the internet for the homes, and they're actually on there like quite often. The numbers are unbelievable how often they hit sites that they're seeing. But I think out of this, we've learned that we need to be more innovative in the technology we're offering for our listings, so that people are able to access that home, like I said, touch, feel, smell it, even though they're not in it. So trying to create that feeling of home even online. But I think that another aspect that has been notable is that people who had already started their social media and had really made an effort to be out there on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is, your chosen one. I've started to realize that there's more people on those sites, and they're connecting to you more like a real person, rather than just an agent who's got a house for that's listed out on Realtor.com or Zillow or Trulia. And over this time, I've had multiple different people who have connected to me for real estate through that social media channel, just because it became a more real feeling, just like it would if we were to have met and then I became your realtor and we were driving together in the car, etc. Now we've got these connections because the social media aspect has allowed for that. And I think that there's quite a few realtors that are realizing that that's going to be a necessary tool in their marketing of homes and themselves.
And I've seen that. I've seen, I'm connected to people I went to high school with on Facebook, and they post kind of thought leadership pieces about tips for buying, tips for selling, and it really helps to drive that brand in your mind that, okay, yes, if I ever do go, this is the person I want to talk to because he's been coaching me for 2 years on, what I need to be doing.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, I think that's all the time we have today, Lisa. So thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time and the insights and everything. I'm sure that everybody will find it very valuable.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And if you guys ever need an update, I'm here for you.
We appreciate that. Well, next week we're going to be joined by Bo Beery, the multifamily investment guy, with Coldwell Banker M.M. Parrish. He's a close friend of mine, and so I'm really excited to talk to him. So thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time.